Capitol Pride kicks off in D.C. next week. However, there's another celebration of LGBTQ culture and history underway in D.C. right now at this very moment. There are no parades or festivals. You won't see those, but it's been happening at this time of year in D.C. for more than 3 decades. Along Georgia Avenue across from Howard University's campus, a small group of D.C. residents had no idea they were making history in this space on May 25th, 1991. Take me back to Banneker Field. Oh, I can see the fond memories in those eyes right there.
Yeah.
D.C. native Racine Pendarvis was approached by other community activists in the early 90s. They had an idea. Black Pride in Shaw at Banneker Field.
No one knew exactly what Black Pride was going to be like. They was like, what? What is Black Pride? What is that?
To understand, you have to go back to the Clubhouse. In 1975, Black LGBTQ Washingtonians founded this membership nightclub tucked away in Petworth in Northwest D.C. It was the social and safe space for everyone, but especially those rejected from other establishments for being Black and queer. Its signature event was an LGBTQ celebration during Memorial Day weekend. By the 1980s and the early years of the AIDS epidemic, the Clubhouse also provided critical space for HIV and AIDS-related work.
When the epidemic hit, it took a moment to trickle down to us, to the Black community. Many people thought it was a white male gay disease.
According to the Rainbow History Project, roughly 40% of the Clubhouse's members were impacted.
When it hit us, we weren't ready. So when it hit us quickly. And then we had to move and we had to pivot.
With dwindling membership, the Clubhouse closed in 1990, but community activists knew there was still a lot of work to do and they needed a safe space before the next year. Back in 91, I mean, the city was still different.
Ooh, we were forging a path for all of us to be free.
They began planning, spreading the word.
Drag shows, raising money, bake sales, car washes.
And pulled it off. One of the earliest Black gay pride events in the U.S. held on Memorial Day weekend when the Clubhouse typically held its signature LGBTQ event. In a souvenir program, founders said the purpose was to have a good time, network, exchange ideas, and most importantly, raise money for people of color with AIDS. Pendarvis stood on stage in awe as more than 800 people arrived.
All shades of Blackness, all shades of queerness, and just seeing it, standing on the field in tears. And I knew at that moment what we were doing was not in vain.
It still gets you emotional.
It does, it does.
It does because they started a movement.
After that first year was on and popping, there was no stopping us.
Thank you all.
The work continues today.
Kathy Neal, and I'm working with the vendors.
With the new generation organizing this year's DC Black Pride.
And we have Potomac, Ballroom 1, 2, and 3.
Which, along with the parties, of course, includes workshops for those attending.
Pick a hashtag.
Support and resources from health to housing.
The volunteers is a big part of this.
Just like the first Black Pride.
We've been doing emails, text messages, and phone calls.
Janice Chambers and Strawberry Cox have been volunteering for more than a decade and say this feels like home because their journeys have not been smooth.
I didn't have real support from my family back then, and neither did the neighborhood kids. So, you know, people are cruel. But after a failed suicide attempt, I decided to just learn how to love myself and accept me for all that I am.
It was a rocky road. My father didn't see this for me, but I was not going to allow his vision of me become the vision that I have for myself. I'm not going to allow anybody not let me be myself. If you don't like who I am or what I'm doing, then you have the door. And that's what I told him.
Chambers says thankfully she had support from her grandmother who took her to her first Black Pride event.
I feel like my grandmother opened the door for me to allow myself to be myself and know that I'm not alone despite, you know, how I may feel at times.
Both Chambers and Cox say that's why they volunteer, to curate an experience for others to feel that same love.
The history is important, the community is important, the love is important, the education is highly important.
You just see people just let go and feel relaxed, and they don't get to do that in their everyday space.
You do an amazing job.
Pendarvis, now known as the Empress of Pride,
This is my fellow Capricorn,
Absolutely.
honey.
still attends DC Black Pride events.
That only being a person of color that you understand in that kinship, the way we say hello, the way we say, how you doing, what's the tea? And it feels like family.
Just like the first event more than 3 decades ago, Pendarvis is still beaming with pride.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful that the bricks and the bottles and the name calling and the heartbreaks were all worth it.
All right, so I told you the first Black Pride attracted more than 800 people. Well, this year, between now and Monday, organizers are expecting tens of thousands of people to attend.